listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level. Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Hello and welcome. We're so happy to have you here today. You are watching Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, fashion, fitness, travel, and leisure. I am your host, executive producer, director, and broadcast engineer. And my co-host, as always, is the lovely Lady Diane, Floyd, Bane. Hello.
Hello, it's great to see you. I love Fridays.
Woo, I do too. I feel like I'm having a party all day long. It's great. So Diane, it's lovely to see you as always. And I know you've been doing a bit of traveling yourself. Where are you now?
I'm in Austin, Texas. I was up in the Virginia area and actually was able to do a little bit of hiking to Great Falls. So if anyone loves hiking, check out Great Falls.
I saw you're doing some gardening as well.
Yes, surprising our oldest daughter, and she's out of town, and she will come home to a beautiful new garden.
Oh, that's so nice. Can you come over to New Jersey and help me out over here?
I wish I could. I love New Jersey.
Well, we will meet in person someday. I am sure of that.
I think it's around the corner, the horse races,
yes.
Hopefully.
Woo! Diane, we have such an incredible guest today. And she's joining us. It's in the middle of the night, okay? She's in Melbourne, Australia. And I'm just so grateful that I know, can you imagine? She looks absolutely gorgeous. She looks like she, she just woke up in a bed of roses or something. So her name is Tyla Lockwood, and she's a sustainability advocate. She's also a speaker, and she has her own podcast called The Unlock Earth. I think it's called, the Unlock Earth podcast. So I'm anxious to get her out here because when you think of sustainability, it's never been more important than it is after this global pandemic that we're still in some parts of the world. We just have to be really thoughtful about how we're living our lives, the decisions that we're making, how we're disposing of things, how we're purchasing things, and how we're really caring for the earth and for each other.
I agree tremendously, and I'm so excited to be speaking to her because I think about sustainability and I think about little things we do around the home, but there's so much more to it. So she's going to really be teaching us a lot, and hopefully we can help out.
Yes, let's bring her out. Hello, Tyla, welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I feel very, very flattered.
Look how rested she looks, doesn't she? If you saw me at 2:00 in the morning, it would not be pretty. I'm just saying. So.
That's a lot of low waist concealer, I'll tell you that.
Well, we have a comment from someone.
Wow.
Hello, how are you guys? We're doing well, thank you. I guess it's B1, I'm not sure what that is, but thank you for joining us here. So Tyla, I think I saw on LinkedIn, I don't know if it's LinkedIn or Facebook, a recent graduation.
Yeah, so I actually finished university in, I think it was January of 2020, which is a great time to finish university. And I went overseas actually right after I finished, and my graduation was meant to be in May of that year. And that never happened. So it's been about 18 months later that I finally got to go to my graduation. I will say, after 18 months, I think it does lose its sparkle a little bit, but I'm glad to be a graduate. It's something that I think all through your life, you kind of go, I'm going to go to university or college or whatever it is. And it's, exciting to kind of tick that off and then on to the next thing, I guess.
For sure. I know my dad used to always say that nobody can ever take your education away from you. And it's always quite an accomplishment to do what you did. So really enjoy it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I think no matter what I mean, I'm not necessarily even in the field that I studied at university, but just the ability to be able to go and learn and meet new people was just so worth the journey. So yeah, I'm very grateful that I was able to do that and graduate now, even if it was a bit later than planned.
Yes. I'm going to spotlight you. And if you would just share with us a little bit about your background, and then I want to kind of dive into sustainability, but just share with us who you are, what it is you do, and the value that you bring to this world.
Oh, absolutely. So I had a lovely introduction from Jacalyn before, so I feel like I have been well introduced, but I'm, as Jacalyn said, a sustainability speaker, advocate, and educator, and I have a podcast called the Unlock Earth podcast. And really with everything I do, it's just about sharing the message that living your best life doesn't need to come at the cost of the planet. For me, sustainability and sustainable living, which is a lot of what I talk about, was really a journey of understanding my impact on the planet and really struggling to come to terms with the fact that I knew I wanted to live this incredible, big, loud life, but also didn't want that to really be detriment to our planet. So for me, it was finding the small changes that I could make in my everyday life to really just cut that impact while I was still pursuing my dreams and following my passions. And that's why I'm really excited to be on the show today, because one of my biggest passions is travel, and fashion is another one. And those are two things that so many people don't see as something that can be sustainable, or at least it can be a lot more sustainable than the way we're doing it now. So as Jacalyn said before, I've just graduated, 18 months later than planned, but just finished up university. But I actually finished university with a marketing degree and realized that I didn't want to go out and just, sell a whole bunch of products to people that don't need them and continue to make waste. And so that was really how I started this whole journey, to starting my podcast, to becoming someone who was outspoken and advocating for climate action and for people just to live a little bit more sustainably. So yeah, I really had that realization while I was traveling as well, just after I finished university. So really everything kind of worked out and aligned really perfectly, which I think a lot of the time it does. The universe has some great timing sometimes. And yeah, I'm just really grateful to be where I am today and doing what I am and pursuing my dreams, whilst also helping myself and other people just reduce their impact on the planet. Even if it's just a little bit, everything counts.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. It's just fabulous what you're doing. And I wanted to ask you, when you approach people as an advocate and you and talk with them about sustainability, maybe some things that they could do, little things, how are you received? Are people like, oh no, I don't want to hear about it, or I don't have a problem, or that's not real?
I think it really depends on the person. Something I found really interesting was, now this sounds like it was a long time ago, but it was probably only a year or two back when Australia had our bushfires. I know that it's a very common thing for us to have bushfires during the summer, but the summer of 2019 was bushfires like we'd never seen before. And that went all the way through to the start of 2020. So that, I think, was a very visual example of what we can expect more of and more severity of coming forward. So I do think there was a big shift, particularly for people in Australia, and I think globally, just having that really visual representation of what the impact is. But in general, I do think that people are really open to changes, especially when they're very small. So for example, like switching something off at the plug or pulling the plug out if you don't have switches. I know some countries have switches. If you don't have switches, then you just can pull the plug out, and that can save up to 10% on your electricity bill if you do that on all your unused devices. So it's something like that where you can kind of encourage people to save some money on their electricity bill and also make an impact on the planet with only a really small change that I feel like is the best perceived advice I give. But most of the time people are pretty good and will say, oh, that's really cool, and ask more questions. So I just love having the conversations anyway.
And you mentioned about did you say there are brush fires?
Bushfires. Sorry.
I remember those. They were very dramatic. I have several friends in Australia, and they would share the impact and the concern.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that came along with that was just also an appreciation for a lot of Indigenous cultures and the lessons and the learnings that we should be taking from them, because in Australia, our Indigenous cultures do a really good job of maintaining the land, especially through bushfires. Australia is not a new country to bushfires. It's been happening for ever since the country's existed. And so by taking on and using some of these Indigenous practices and ways of caring for the land, not just in Australia, but globally, I think is another huge shift that we need to make towards being more sustainable in everything we do.
here in the States, especially in California, I think it was 2018, and since, there have been horrible fires. And my cousin, actually, Robert Kerbeck, he wrote a book called Malibu Burning. And the reason I bring it up is because I don't think, unless you're there and you've witnessed it or it's happened to someone, you don't realize the impact that that fire causes, not to obviously just the land, but the pollution, the animals that were living there that had to scurry or maybe were killed. And it just goes on. And then when you're trying to regrow that area, it takes years.
Absolutely. And sorry, Diane, but I was just going to say the fires. Like I said, fires is such a visual thing, which I think is why it made a lot of people wake up and really be like, oh my God, this is something we have to do something about. But there's so many more representations of it. I don't know how often you guys get to the beach, but even if you go to the beach and it's just covered in rubbish or anything like that. And again, I mean, we're not facing even the worst of it. Like there are a lot of developing nations that are facing much worse issues when it comes to climate change. So I think that when we have these visual events, we need to use them as a way to encourage people to really take action. But you're absolutely right. It's a bit hard to kind of look at the situations without being in them to be able to really kind of get that feel and get that motivation, which I think is really, really powerful when it comes to encouraging sustainability.
Yes. And I've mentioned during the pandemic, I purchased a trampoline, a small trampoline, and it broke. The springs broke after jumping on it so often. And I started thinking to myself,
doing a little bit of everything, but there's so much more. And like you said, traveling, you learn so much. And sometimes I wish I had a camera and could go way out in the deep sea, because we have so many ships that, import and exporting from country to country. And I know what little bit I've seen, they just put all the waste out to the sea. And for me, it just really bothers me, because the sea life is suffering as well. So it's the whole earth we need to really be looking at. So yay for your podcast. I don't know if you talk about that at all, but just wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah, definitely on the podcast, it's bringing together people from all different areas of sustainability and personal development. For me, personal development was something I was always really interested in. So the ability to be able to bring, and a lot of people I have in are like small business owners in Australia who are running like sustainable fashion labels, and just their approach and the changes that they can make to make something a little bit more sustainable is incredible. But Jacalyn, I would love to hear about the trampoline.
Oh, yeah. So the springs broke, and I thought to myself, how am I going to throw this away? Like, where's it going to go? What's going to happen to it? Is it going to go to like I put it outside and the trash man pick it up, and then what? It goes to a landfill, and then so it's in the garage. I haven't done anything with it because I don't really know what to do with it. But I wasn't thinking this way before, and I have all these lights, and I used to leave them on between all the shows. Now I turn them off, even if it's for 10 minutes. I'm just trying to think more proactively, and I want to learn more.
Absolutely. And waste is such a big thing that I like to advocate for people, because I think it's, again, a very visual thing in your life. You see how much you actually physically put in the bin. And then if you have your like curbside where you get your rubbish picked up, however you get your rubbish picked up, you can visually see that rubbish. So I think it's a really great space for people to start reducing their impact. And I think what you did is great, Jacalyn, because I think just by holding onto an item, even if it does end up in landfill, which sadly is where a lot of things are going to end up, just holding on to something a bit longer to really realize the impact that that's had, and not in a bad way, and not in a way to make yourself feel bad or anything like that, but in a way to just appreciate the resources and time and effort that's gone into it. And if you can find a way for it to be recycled or repaired or donated or anything like that, I think that's always a great option. If that's not available, because often it's not, then that's not, you can't get really hard on yourself about anything like that, because at the end of the day, a lot of the systems that are in place right now also aren't helping us to win in these areas. So I think even just by holding on to something a little bit longer, realizing its value as an item and as something that has been brought into this world is really, really valuable.
Yes, thank you.
I just want to throw out there, not that Goodwill has paid me to say this, but one of the things I love about this company that's in the U.S., I don't know if it's in Australia or not, Goodwill, is that they have incredible people that work behind the scenes that end up adding the buttons or redo things. But equipment, like you're talking about, the trampoline, you give it to Goodwill and it actually helps the person have a job because they go and take springs from others and then they redo it. Mm-hmm. And the material that she used in trampolines and so forth, they can actually make patches out of it if they can't fix, if they fixed one and there's one left over, then they make patches and help it in some other areas.
Ah, I love that, Diane. Thank you.
That's the teacher in me coming out because I used to take the kids on field trips and everything. And so, yeah, Goodwill's amazing.
That's good to know. And actually, I did buy extra springs so that I thought somebody could probably fix it and then they could reuse it. We have to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about travel. But one thing I want to get to, because I really have a question about this, is the whole concept of recycling. Because I've been told by numerous people here in the States that there really isn't any recycling. The same trucks that pick up all of those containers also pick up waste, landfill, scrap metal, whatever it might be, and then it all goes to the same place. So I'd like to come back with that if that's okay with you both.
Absolutely. Yes, sounds great.
Okay, thank you. We are going to take a look at Our Choice Fashion, sustainable sneakers.
When all my broken sneakers started to pile up in the wardrobe, I realized that we have a problem. Sneakers are made from plastics, and plastic is not mendable. My name is Philip, and I'm one of the founders of Our Choice Fashion. How many times did this happen to you? How can eco sneakers save the world when they break after only a few months and we have to buy pair after pair that breaks? We are here to give you the solution, a choice for truly sustainable fashion in the world's first circular sneakers. On average, we all buy 3 pairs of sneakers each and every year. This adds up to 25 billion sneakers per year, of which most end up in landfills. This adds up to 350 million tons of CO2 emissions, the same amount as for the country of Italy or the state of California. So we started to develop a product that would have all the old-fashioned qualities. It is mendable, it has a classic design, and it has a natural comfort. Because we chose the best designer there is, Mother Nature. The sneakers get more and more comfortable the more you wear them. Made from vegetable tan leather and natural latex from the rubber tree, the sneakers are both sustainable and comfortable. These sneakers are made from pure raw materials that are both fully biodegradable and fully recyclable. The best thing here really is that when your sneakers need an upgrade, you just send them right back to us using the same bag that you got them delivered in. We then resole your sneakers, put on a fresh pair of laces, and give them a nice new polish. This means that you can wear your sneakers for many years to come. Our sneakers are more than sneakers. They are a circular function, and we developed a smart pull for you to step into your sneakers without stepping down the heel. This means that you get a truly sustainable grip. We've got a fully circular business model, and that's why we'll only produce sneakers on your demand. Book your product now and get that sustainable grip at a discount. We've been on this amazing journey for 2 years, and now we're inviting you to also make a choice for truly sustainable fashion. Try the world's first circular sneakers, 100% plastic-free, and I can promise you that our choice will be your companion for many years to come.
It's what we do together that counts. The Big Alliance story. A true story about faith over adversity, perseverance, and entrepreneurship. Read Earl's story and how he became an entrepreneur. Available on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible.com. For more information, contact Earl Hurd at earlhurd@bicalliance.com or call 1-800-460-4242.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello and welcome back to Fashion, Fitness, Travel, and Leisure. My co-host Diane Floyd Boehm is in the house, and our lovely guest Tyla Lockwood is here. She is a sustainability advocate. She is a speaker, a recent graduate, and a podcast host. So welcome back. We're going to talk a little bit about recycling. We do have a comment, and it's from Ian Pelham Turner. We are so happy to have you with us, Ian. Hello, joining us from London. In UK, we have many charity shops where people can take their unwanted items. A royal secret from me. Woo! Prince Charles always ensured clothes and items he no longer had use for would go to a local charity shop in the areas he lived within. How about that?
That's great to know.
That's great. Thank you, Ian. Ian is he is the star of our show Celebrate Great Britain Royally Rich, and also with Helena Chard, which they're fabulous people. So let's go on to recycling. Is it true that if you have plastics and you separate them from everything else, or you have newspapers, whatever it is, you separate them, they're collected, it really goes someplace different than a landfill?
There's honestly not one yes or no answer I can give for that, because it's going to be so dependent on the country you live in, the city you live in. It could be different on one street to the next. It really, really just depends on where you live. And honestly, sometimes it changes. So a good example of this was a lot of countries globally ship a lot of our waste, whether that's recyclable or not, over to developing nations and kind of essentially what I call is dump it there. And which is obviously not ideal. There isn't really a great solution right now that many countries that I have heard of are running. Obviously, there's probably great things out there that I'm just not aware of, but the issue becomes of where this recycling goes, right? So what happened in Australia was we were shipping a lot of our waste off to China, if I am understanding correctly. And China was like, no, we don't want to take your recycling anymore. And then so for a long, long period of time, and I don't even know if this has been fully resolved yet, it was exactly what you were saying, Jacalyn, where things were going into our recycling bins, but they weren't being recycled. The other thing that's to be considered is about how much of certain items actually get recycled. So plastics, a very, very small amount of plastics actually get recycled. Now, this doesn't mean you shouldn't put them in your recycling bin. I think you still should, in the hopes that it will. If anything, for me, that just really sends the message of consume as little plastic as possible and try to look for other alternatives. So something like an aluminium or a glass is more likely to be recycled. But even then, every material has its downfalls, right? So aluminium is quite damaging for them to mine, but it's really good to be recycled because it maintains 100% of its weight and its size. So it's really, really difficult to manage and navigate sustainability, I think, in this day and age. And even the term sustainability is used so broadly that it's really hard to give a definite answer either way. I think ultimately trying to do the best things that you can do, so putting your right things in the recycling bins and hoping that it does go to where it needs to go. And if that means calling up your council or your city, whatever area takes your rubbish, and actually asking those questions is a really great way to kind of understand what's actually happening to your waste. Another thing that I really encourage people to do is a very, very, and it can be simple, it can be more complex depending on whether you own your home, whether you live in an apartment or a house, depending on your situation, again, it can be complex. But adding in a composting unit is something that can make a huge amount of difference. Like, I would say that if you can add in a composting unit somewhere in your home, in an apartment building, anything like that, that is one of the biggest changes you can make when it comes to your waste. Like, that'll have much more of an impact than recycling, because not only does it mean that you can make this beautiful, fresh, rich soil out of your leftover fruits and veg, but it also means that the carbon dioxide and the other damaging greenhouse gases that get released by these foods when they end up in landfill won't happen at a significant rate as they would if they're being composted. So it's just one of those things where there are so many different answers out there, and unfortunately I can't give you a definite yes or no. Absolutely, I don't think there is a great and clear answer right now, but I do think that we're moving towards more transparency. I'm hoping that what is going to happen, and what I think will have to happen, is that countries are going to have to open up more local recycling plants, because a lot of the time they're relying on sending it to overseas countries who are having to say yes to it. And so I think that that's something that's definitely going to shift. It is also the case where a lot of the times you'll see developing nations have a significant amount of pollution, and people will be like, oh, where is all this pollution coming from? 9 times out of 10, I would say that it is coming from a larger nation that is selling, dumping, whatever way you want to put it, their waste on these countries. So it is a very, very complex issue, and that is a very, very brief way of looking at it. And I'm sure I haven't covered everything in that, but it is a really tricky question, but it is a question we should be asking, which is why I do think that even just giving a quick call to your, like I said, council or city to ask what is happening to your waste is such a valuable exercise to do. And then they know that you're aware and you care about what is happening with your waste as well.
Thank you for that. It sounds like 2 things. 1, ask the questions and get answers. And 2, just keep doing the right things and hoping that if it's not taking place now, that eventually it will, because you've brought attention and awareness to it.
And I don't want to, and the reason I say that is because I don't want people to then be like, oh, I'm not going to put my rubbish in the recycling if it's not going to get recycled, because the reality is your city might be doing a great job of it, but you might be living somewhere that isn't. So I think that, and recycling is again one of those sustainability habits that has been so embedded for so long that it's almost automatic for a lot of people. So I'm hoping that more habits become like that. And I don't want to take a step back and have people going, oh, I'm not even going to bother now. Like, no, keep doing that. That's a really conscious effort, and that's a really significant thing you're doing, and just be proud of the fact that you can properly separate your rubbish, because that's a huge step.
It is a huge step, and I'm glad you also brought about compost, because my husband and I, we've been doing that for a long time, and and I love to garden, so it's great.
It's a win-win.
Yes, but I also want to say there are some schools that are also doing great things to have clubs to teach kids the importance. And I just want to do a shout out that there is a librarian at the British school in Saudi Arabia. And what she does with the British school and with the kids, I'll have to connect you with them, because they should be on your podcast. These kids have learned to do so much with plastic and make things that it's just phenomenal. I wish she could go all over the world and teach all the schools kids how to take care of their waste. So that particular school has hardly any waste. They make sure they reuse instead of throwing away the notes that they take. They figure out how to recycle the notes and etc. And anyway, I thought you might find that interesting.
That is so interesting. And especially because, and this is the thing, a lot of it's a mindset shift, right? So we bring a piece of waste, or say you buy a can of beans, for example. I don't even like beans. I don't know why that's the example, but you buy a can of beans, you eat the beans, and then you're like, okay, I have this can, I'll throw it out. And so a lot of what it is actually rethinking that. So it's like glass jars is a great example of this. I mean, my cupboard is overflowing with glass jars. I don't buy them. I reuse them for what I've already brought in through my grocery shopping. If you need like little pots to do your indoor potting, you can see my indoor pots behind me. You can use those tin cans to do it. I have friends of mine who pot avocado seeds. You have to get them to sprout in water. It's not a hard process, but it's more complex than I'm making it sound. But they use their leftover tin cans to plant those avocado seeds. So it's not necessarily about just being like it's not about necessarily making sure that, oh, it's going in the recycling, which I think is a very important part, but how can you repurpose that? How can you reuse that? How can we make sure that we're not bringing new things in? And I think that circularity is really going to be an important thing going forward, especially with the fashion industry, especially like with every industry. I think circularity is going to be key.
That's one thing I want to point out, that for folks who are watching, or maybe they're going to be watching later, that the name of the show is Fashion, Fitness, Travel, and Leisure. And you might be thinking, sustainability, why are they talking about this? Because it really intersects all of those industries. So let's move over quickly to fitness, because you shared with us backstage that you've got an incredible accomplishment in the fitness industry. So can you share that with us?
Yes. So this is something I don't often talk about, because I always feel the pressure, like, when you're wanting to talk about something you do, it's like, oh, I have to be really, really, really good at something to talk about it. And I'm starting to learn that, like, no, you can enjoy doing something and talk about it. So for me, I've been competing in Taekwondo for a little while now. I couldn't tell you the exact amount of years. I know I started training when I was 10, got my black belt. I now have my 4th Dan black belt, which is really exciting. And it's just been one of those things where it just reminds me how incredible sport and group sport is for anything. Like Taekwondo is an individual sport, but I do most of my socializing at Taekwondo, just hanging out with my friends there. I can get my fitness in. It's such a testament to why sport is so great and why I think everyone should do it. It makes you feel incredible. So being able to do it in a group atmosphere, even though it's an individual sport, is something I really love. And I was actually, funnily enough, in the US and in Europe when the pandemic started, because I was overseas traveling for some Taekwondo competitions. So unfortunately did have to do a 2-week quarantine coming back into Australia, but it was worth it to travel one last time before the borders shut us out.
And congratulations on all of that. I just wondered how much of that is mental and how much of it is physical strength?
Oh, it's so mental. Like it's crazy how mental it is, especially because Taekwondo is a sport where you get kicked. Like you're getting kicked in the head, right? So you're like, that hurts physically, but mentally that is just so much to take on. And I wouldn't even say I've come close to mastering that. And I'm a big mental health advocate, and sport's obviously a great thing for mental health. So it's interesting to try and find the balance between enjoying something and getting the positive benefits of sport and through Taekwondo, as well as making sure that it's something that isn't also negatively affecting your mental health. So I think it's definitely a balance. And I think when it comes to competing, it's you do all your training and you do all your fitness stuff ahead of time. But if you don't do that mental zone in and focus, then you've lost before you've even walked in.
Mm. I figured it had a lot to do with mental strength, because you have to get yourself into that mindset where there's no distractions and you're completely focused on your opponent and giving yourself that, I guess, that grace to hit someone. I don't know.
It's crazy, right? So my husband used to teach Taekwondo. That's why I kind of know a little bit about it. And third degree, he's not practicing it anymore, but it was really fun. And man, just one little second of losing your concentration, bam, right? But
Absolutely.
I think fencing is the same way, just so mental, right? Or that sword's going to go straight through you.
I think every sport is. I can personally talk about Taekwondo because that's what I do, but I'm sure every sport has that mental component to it. And I mean, it's definitely not something I would say I've mastered at all. I mean, I've recently, within the last 3 months, been diagnosed with ADHD. And so me reflecting now on all of those times I was in the ring and just couldn't focus at all, I was like, this makes a lot more sense now. So learning to deal with that and learning to manage that and use it as a skill rather than, oh no, like this is why I can't do something. It's like, no, you have this, you are aware of it. Let's work with it.
Right.
You shared with us just a couple of minutes ago that you were traveling prior to the pandemic. You were traveling because you were in competitions for Taekwondo. What about traveling in terms of you being a sustainability advocate? Is that something that you also do?
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite things to talk about, because I feel like there is such I don't want to say like a misconception, because it is true. Travel is not inherently sustainable. The way that we travel now isn't sustainable. The fact that people will jump on a plane to go to one business meeting blows my mind. But I think for me, I see travel as so essential. And I don't know whether it's an ADHD thing or whether it's just my brain, but I thrive in new environments and being really stimulated by new things. So for me, travel is just like the best thing ever. Like it's essential. It's completely essential. So that means that I look at ways that I can significantly reduce my impact for travel. And at the moment, obviously, travel is pretty off the cards. I can do some domestic travel here in Australia, but we can't go overseas for probably at least until the end of the year, if not the start of next year, looking at the way it's going for us now. But that means that I can look at what I really, really want to do. So I think the number one thing you can do is, if you're going to go somewhere, like make sure that you get the value out of that trip. Like do the stuff you want to do, enjoy your time there, because then even though you've made an impact, it's been worth it for you. If you go and do stuff you don't want to do or feel like you should do, or I'm a big advocate for like solo traveling and going and doing what you want to do on your own time, in your own pace, that means you can do exactly what you want to do. Your trip's not going to be impacted by, oh, this person wants to go to the museum, so I'll have to go there, but I don't want to go there. That's impacting the impact of your trip, for lack of a better term. Because if you're not enjoying it to the absolute most you can, then you're creating this sustainability impact without having the great benefits of travel. So there are so many things you can do. Even packing a little bit lighter significantly reduces the petrol like a plane will use. And low waste packing has been something that I've been getting really into, because I use shampoo and conditioner bars just all the time. And I'll tell you what, when you don't have to worry about your shampoo and conditioner leaking, so much easier for traveling. So it's really something that I'm working on. It's a work in progress, but I am hoping to continue to share with people ways that they can really make their travel worthwhile. Because I know that a lot of airline companies at the moment, you'll see they'll have like, make sure you offset your carbon, and people will tick that box and pay the $2, $5, $10, depending on how long their trip is, to offset that. But that again isn't negating the impact of that trip. Like ultimately reduction is better than kind of covering it up with carbon offsetting. So make sure your trips are going to be like the best they can possibly be. And also make sure you're being smart about where you're going. There's no point in flying from this country to this country to this country to this country when you can take maybe 2 trains and go the whole distance. Like thinking more smartly, taking the time to plan your trips is another really easy thing that you can do to reduce the impact of your travel. But it's something that I'm excited to do post-pandemic, really put into action all of these things that I want to do sustainability-wise.
Where will you go first?
Oh, that is such a hard question. You know what? I really want to go to Bali. And I know that is such a cliche answer for an Australian to say, but I feel like I need my spiritual time. And I know that it's just such a beautiful spiritual place. And I know that it's been hit so hard not having the tourism there. And I've actually connected with so many people over the pandemic who talk a lot about traveling sustainably, but in the focus of making sure that you're looking after the culture and the local people that are there. And I think that that's something that's very skipped over in Bali. It's a place where a lot of like digital nomads flock to and people flock to, and they kind of, I don't want to say that people are doing detriment to a country, because it's definitely the tourism industry supporting it. But I think we need to be really careful about how we treat a country when we're traveling through it, not just from a sustainability point of view, but from a people and culture point of view as well. So that's where I think I will go first. But I will say I was in Washington, D.C. pre-pandemic, and I had the best time accidentally there. So I really, really want to go back.
Accidentally, that's funny.
Well, I didn't know much about it. So when I went, I was like, I didn't know what to expect. And I had this day, and mind you, it was just after finishing uni. So I think my brain was clear, like forever. My brain was clear. It was a beautiful time of the year. I just walked around. Incredible. Love it there. Need to go back.
Diane and I are both close to there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Got any travel plans anytime soon?
I just left there actually, but next time you're there, you let us know. We'll point out some things. But there's so many gorgeous places in the world, and one of the things I really appreciated you stating was to be mindful of the people and the culture that you're from, or that you're traveling from or going to, I should say, and that's one thing I worry about during the pandemic is so many countries rely on tourism, and Ethiopia is one of them. And people don't talk about Ethiopia that much, but they really need us. And Uganda is another one. And the people are just so incredible, and I really worry about them. And when you said about going on business travel, that's hopefully people now have gotten used to Zoom and doing it, because I've been a giant advocate since the 90s about distance learning and distance doing business by just staying at home and plugging people in. And now we've gotten used to it. So hopefully we'll stay like that. But I really appreciated you talking about that.
Thank you so much. And I think that the other thing is that the reason that a lot of these countries are so reliant, or even areas are so reliant on tourism, is because people have kind of made it that way. So by going to these places and requesting that there are a ton of hotels and having a big demand, while there's definitely, and it's with everything, I never like to say that something is good or bad, because I don't think there is a definite good or bad, but I think that just considering the impact of you going somewhere and expecting there to be a hotel for you to stay in and expecting there to be tourism opportunities and things like that is just something to consider why the world is that way as well. It's something that my eyes have really been opened up with during the pandemic. And I'm so grateful to have people that I've connected with online that have kind of shared that with me. And so much to learn, so much to grow. But I think there is a definite positive outcome of the pandemic when it comes to travel habits. I'm really hoping.
It's
great.
interesting. I used to travel a lot when I was in corporate, and I used to drive a lot. And now the car is on the driveway just covered in dust because, I think, and I'm not kidding you, I think since the end of December, I've driven my car maybe 7 or 8 times to go to the grocery store and get my vaccination, and that's it. And my lease is coming up, and they called me from the dealership, and they said that there are not a lot of vehicles in inventory because people haven't been driving. But I think that might change. I'm not sure if people are. I've heard both sides. I've heard that, like, I like this because obviously this is my business and it's virtual, right? At some point, I'm planning maybe September to have an actual studio where people could also come in. So I'll do both things. But I know there's a group of people who like it like this. And I know there's a group of people who they want to start traveling, going everywhere, doing everything because they feel like mentally they really need it.
Yeah, well, I'm in the camp of, I think you can do both. Like everything I'm doing now is to set myself up for when I can travel post-pandemic. My ideal life situation is to slow travel around places. So spend a month or 2 in one area, really get to know it, understand it, love it, reduces the impact. It gives you a chance to really be absolved in the culture, like absorbing the culture. And yeah, I think that's just like a much more natural way to travel than like, oh, you have 2 weeks off a year, go and have like this crazy big holiday where you go do all these things and then you come back and then you need a holiday from your holiday. I feel like we've all had that. Yeah. I always needed a holiday after my holiday. So I think that there's definitely going to be a shift. The cars is such an interesting point as well, because I think so many people have realized, even like local cafes, obviously I live in Melbourne, which if you don't know is like, the coffee, like you can't be a Melburnian if you don't drink like 6 cups of coffee a day. So people just exploring their local cafes and using the fact that they have, at one point we could only go 5 kilometers from our house. So that means people were going and having a journey to go and get a coffee. Like that became such an exciting thing. So I'm hoping that we hold on to some of those things, like not driving as much, just for our pure enjoyment of life. Because I do think that obviously it was a really, really difficult time, but I do think there were some huge benefits that came out of it as well. I
agree with you. We are almost out of time. There's so many more things we should discuss, but I want to hear about your podcast, the Unlock Earth podcast.
Absolutely. So ever since I was a child, very young child, I was told I talk too much. And so I thought, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a podcast. So everyone who said I talk too much can sit there and listen to me for an hour. But really, I'd come back from, again, like everything really links into the past, like 18 months have truly been transformative for me. I came back from being overseas and traveling. I had come back, I had to do a 2-week quarantine at home, which wasn't too bad. I got into a great routine, but honestly, just being at home all the time and working from home just wasn't fulfilling me. And so, like I said, while I was traveling, I had this big emotional kind of epiphany, I will say, where I realized like travel is something I really want to do and sustainability is really important to me. So how can I make that kind of work? So I reached out to a few people who I really love their businesses. As I said before, most of them are small Aussie businesses. I've started to have some international guests, which has been really exciting, and those are coming up in the next couple of weeks. But really, it's just a great opportunity for people to just learn about sustainability from the people that are doing the right thing and they're making the businesses that can allow them to be more sustainable, or they're advocating for sustainability. And I really like that every person that comes on as a guest really has a different point of view and a different perspective. And often I'm sitting there learning so much stuff. And as I said, it's not all about sustainability. I have a lot of people on there as well who are sort of in that personal development space as well, because for me, it's not just about reducing your impact. It's about living your best life. Like that is just as important, because if you know you're going to have an impact on the planet, then it is your duty, in my opinion, to live the absolute best, biggest, brightest life that you possibly can, because you're going to have an impact anyway. So let's reduce that impact, live a great life. And that's really everything that I share through the podcast. And honestly, some of the guests that I've had on, truly I am starstruck by. And every conversation I have just ends up being way more incredible than I could have ever imagined. So it's just been a passion journey that has really blossomed, and I just have such a great time doing it.
Well, guess what? Back at you, because that's how I feel right now having you on this show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Tyla, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? Remember, people are listening on the radio and they can't read the banner.
Absolutely. So really my website is the best place. It's just Tyla, Tyla, Lockwood, which is, as it sounds, lockandwood.com. If not, you can look me up on Instagram, LinkedIn, all of the platforms. So it's just my name on everything. Or if you want to listen to the podcast, it's just the Unlock Earth podcast, and it should be on your favorite podcasting app. So if you search it up there, just as it sounds, the Unlock Earth podcast, check it out. I really enjoy making it, and I'm just, really grateful to be here as well today, Jacalyn. You have filled me up with joy. I don't know how I'm going to sleep after this. I'm already all pumped up.
It's funny because it's deceiving because it's white. It looks like, all the sunlight's coming in. You are in the middle of the night.
Oh, no, it's definitely pitch black outside.
Well, thank you for staying up late and being on the show with us. Love to have you come back on our business show, and also on I Have a Story to Tell. I think you'd be a great fit for both of those programs.
Absolutely. I would absolutely love to. And again, Diane, Jacalyn, this has been absolutely incredible. I'm so grateful for both of your time. Like, I could do this for another 4 hours. So
we can listen to you too.
Yes, we could. I've learned a lot from you, and I want to learn more. So thank you again. And do please book on another session on one of our other shows.
Absolutely. I will make sure to do that.
All right. Take care. Have a good night's sleep.
Care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Oh, she was delightful. And, I love that she's so passionate about what she's doing, what she believes in. And I really love the fact that there are more and more, I'm going to say, I hate to say younger, but younger people who care about this planet, who care about this world, and care about the generations to come, and are actually out there doing something about it.
You're absolutely right. You took the words right out of what I was going to say. So there's such hope, and the world and the earth is so beautiful, and we need to stop and think about what we're doing. And that's one of the things I love about taking hikes and so forth, that it reminds us, or it reminds me anyway, of just the nature around us. The birds need sustainability, that things we need to do. We need to take care of our trees and water things. I mean, there's just so much. Even the cutest little bugs, they have a reason to be here. We may not like them. Cicadas are coming back, and we're all freaking out. Oh my God, the cicadas are out. But you know what? They have a purpose, and the crows really like them.
Diane, I have to tell you something really funny based on what you said. So, I got my meditation teacher certification, and I took a vow not to kill anything, which sounds ridiculous, but you can't kill anything, bugs. So there have been little silverfish throughout the winter, and this one little silverfish was in my bathroom, and I looked at it and I said, "Hey guy, I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to ask my mom to kill you, but just do me a favor. Just try to stay away from me, and please don't end up in my bed," because one time there was a silverfish above the ceiling fan and it ended up on my pillow. So anyway, I swear the thing said okay. So I named him Dan. So I was watching Dan go around my bedroom in different places, and I would be like, "Dan, please don't go over there near this or that," So anyway, poor Dan is dead now. And
I'm sorry.
Yes.
He's probably hungry.
Well, I read that silverfish can live a year without any food as long as they have water.
Oh, wow.
So poor Dan didn't have any water. Then my other story was for Mother's Day, my big time out with my mom after however many months. They gave us a little plant. I forget what it's called. And long story short, I named her Daphne. And so she was in this one place downstairs, and I thought it was too bright. And I went over and I said, "Hi, Daphne. I know you're my mom's, but I just want to just say hi. I'm Jacalyn, and I don't think you really like it here, do you?" And of course, she didn't say anything, but I moved her, and she's doing so much better. And I said, "Hey, you like it over? It was too bright over there, right?"
I love it. You sound so much like me, because even if it's in the house, I will pick it up and move it somewhere. I'll get a twig if I'm out in nature and go, oh, you don't belong here. And I'll pick them up. And again, I'm very careful. And I'm really bad. If I see a turtle in the road, I actually stop if I can, if it's safe, and pull over. I'll grab some gloves out of my trunk, and I'll put the gloves on, and I'll go pick up that turtle and put him back so he doesn't get smushed.
Ah, no, that's a great thing to do. That's really nice. I just want to say to the bug community at large, if you are a cockroach or a rat or a mouse, please stay away. I respect whatever role you're playing, but I don't want you here. Okay, I don't want to.
I agree.
We've seen. So we're on the bay, and it's just beautiful. There's a bridge, and at night you can see skunks. Somebody had whatever those, the
night visuals.
Yes, and they took pictures of them, and there were like 30 skunks crossing over the bridge. So funny. So skunks, you stay out there. That's okay.
Fashion, travel, and fitness with the skunks.
Yes, exactly. And Dan, if you have any relatives, please tell them, we really don't want them here, but if we see them, we won't do anything to them. So
there you go.
Oh my gosh, as I digress. So Diane, what do you have going on for the rest of the weekend?
The rest of the weekend, well, as you know, we're in the process of relocating. So it's all about that. And I have coming up a big conference for booksellers. We'll be selling our books in Seguin, Texas next weekend. So I'm preparing for that. And it's always an exciting book fair. It's a big Texas Lone Star book fair. So
Yay! I saw that I think it was on your Facebook page. So congratulations for that.
Thanks.
Diane, I am going to spotlight you, and I would love for you to share with us about what you're doing overall for people who don't know all the amazing things you've accomplished.
You're so sweet. Thanks. Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. So I'm a children's author, Diane Floyd Bane, and you can read more about me at my website, even though it's spelled like Boehm, but it's Boehm. And I love to write books about peace and love and harmony for children and for kids to love one another and to be kind. I go to schools, and I also like to do conferences for educators and other people who just want to be inspired to be the best that they can be. And it is such a pleasure and honor to be part of the Ho Dr. Jacalyn Better You. So I really encourage you to check out the Better You, because Dr. Jacalyn and all the rest of us involved in the Better You wants you to be the best that you can be. And Dr. Jacalyn being a co-host with you is so much fun, and I'm always learning, and you're just an amazing human being. So I took advantage of you to say all that.
Thank you, Diane. I appreciate it. And Diane is too shy to say this, but she's an award-winning international children's author. So she's traveled the world. She lived in Dubai for a while. She's a performer. She's a model, singer, actress. And not only that, I think her greatest gift to this world is she's always helping other people. She's always thinking about other people. She's always helping other people. And we need more of that in the world. So thank you, Diane.
Thank you. And I do love helping people. When people, yesterday I just had a call actually. Someone had heard that I like helping people figure out ways that they can be the best that they can be, the better you that you have. And we're actually going to meet next week. And she's an underwater photographer and wants to do things with her artists. So I'm just going to explore with her, and we're going to figure out things she can do. And how exciting is that?
That is really exciting. It's so beautiful under the water. I mean, I personally don't want to go there because I'm afraid of fish.
Yeah.
It sounds ridiculous. But when I see the photographs that people take from it, it's just amazing. It's a whole beautiful world there. And we've got to keep our plastic out of the water. And we've got to make sure that the beautiful beings living in the water are protected and taken care of.
Amen. Have you ever swam with the dolphins? Because
no.
It's miraculous, and that's why, as I said earlier, that I worry about the water and everything that lives there, because they have a right to have a beautiful life too.
They definitely do. They do. So,
Right.
amen to the planet and to the to all of us humans to make sure we take care of it.
Yes, and everyone in the fashion world. In closing, resale shops have amazing clothes, and you are helping not only look good, but helping the planet too.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Diane. That's a great way to close us out. We have another show coming up. Let's see, what time is it? We have another show coming up in half an hour, and the show is called I Have a Story to Tell. And
I love that one.
Yes, and our guest today, I think I met him from Clubhouse. I haven't actually met him, but his name is Maury Zelkovich, and he's going to be talking about the mind and something that he went through and something that he came up with to try to help other people. So I'm not going to spill the beans, so to say.
That'll be exciting.
All right, Diane, thank you again for being here. Good luck with everything you're doing. Remember to take time for yourself and take good care of your husband too.
I will too. You have a great day. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye,
Take care.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye, Diane. I just want to thank you again for being here. As I mentioned earlier this morning, we have 8 shows today. So we now have 5 left. And every guest, you just saw Tyla, every guest has something incredible to offer, to bring. We've got a global audience, and I'm so thankful. I go to sleep, I say my prayers, I'm like, thank you, Lord, that all these wonderful people are comfortable coming here and sharing their story. And I really hope that you reach out and connect with a lot of these people who are here, with everyone, if you could. I just want to give a little self-promotion on my book that is coming out. It's going to be available for pre-order on Sunday. Yes, this Sunday. And the book, I have an image of it. It's called Behind the Green Screen: How to Succeed in the Live Broadcasting Business. And this is basically a how to build your own live stream platform. So as I mentioned all the time, this is not a podcast, it's live. So if this green screen falls down, if these headphones fall off, these earrings come out, it's all out there. There's nothing I can do. The show becomes a podcast afterwards. So the book is about how you can build your own live broadcast, everything that I did, from getting the LLC to start the business, all the way through the equipment that you need, etc. And it also includes personal stories of how and why I left the corporate world. My last paycheck was March the 6th of 2020, and I built this broadcasting platform starting in August of last year. We started out actually just on the phone with Business Talk Radio and whomever the guest was. We moved to Zoom. Then from Zoom, we moved to StreamYard, and from StreamYard, with one show on one platform, we now have 17 shows on 11 platforms. So if you would help me with the book is available starting June 17th. That's when it's going to be shipped. It's going to be $19.99. It's available globally. If you pre-order the book, it will be $9.99. So savings of $10. So keep that in mind. On Sunday, if you can go to Amazon and pre-order Behind the Green Screen, I will be very grateful. Thank you so much for being here. We look forward to seeing you for our next show, which is in less than half an hour. We'll talk to you then. Bye.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.